wash away the thoughts inside. Keep my mind away from you. No more love and no more pride. Thoughts are all I have to you. Remember when it rained, I felt the ground and looked up high and called your name. Remember when it rained, in the water I remain. Tears of hope come down my skin. Tears for you that will not dry. They magnify the one within. At the outside remember when it rained, I felt the ground and looked up high and called your name. Remember when it rained, in the darkness I remain, running down, running down, running down, running down, running down, running down, running down.
Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you to the Provo City Hall. We're glad that you're here for the Utah County SIDS Alliance in the Canary Garden. This is the 5th annual Memorial Tree Lighting Ceremony. We believe this is a great opportunity for our community to come together and to remember special people, to share in the goodwill and in the fellowship and friendship with people who want to remember very special people who have gone on. And tonight we are very pleased to have with us the Reverend Dean L. Jackson from the Rock Canyon Assembly of God Church. You'll see that tonight he's here in his police chaplain uniform. I'm told he does not have a gun and that we're safe. Those of you that may not know Reverend Jackson, let me just introduce him in a little bit more depth. Dean L. Jackson and his wife Marlis moved to Provo, Utah in 1999 when they agreed to serve as the lead pastors at the Rock Canyon Church. In addition to the pastorate, he has served as a member of the Provo-Orem Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, chairman of the Provo Youth Services Board, Utah County United Way Executive Board and board member, Provo Rotary Club Board of Directors, IHC Hospice Chaplain, Utah County Domestic Violence Coalition, event chairman for the American Freedom Festival. He was most recently chosen to serve as the district governor for Rotary for the District 5420 in 2007-2008 and administrative assistant for the host organization committee for the 2007 International Rotary Convention. He has received numerous awards, including the Mayor's Medal for Outstanding Service, as well as the Beyond Excellence, the Special Award of Merit from Chief Greg Cooper of the Provo Police Department, the 2002 Mayor's Award in Humanities, the IHC Beacon of Hope Award, and Rotary International's 4 Avenues of Service citation. He is the founder of Jackson Consulting. This enables him to travel and teach community building skills and developing relevant community building programs within communities across our country. He also does training for law enforcement and government agencies on death notifications, stress management and relationships, police chaplaincy, and training for Rotary service. Tonight, we're pleased to welcome the Reverend Dean L. Jackson.
Well, I'd like to begin this evening by thanking Mayor Billings for that introduction, and also wanted to just recognize Julie Bolton from the Hope Task Force and SIDS Alliance, who invited me to be here this evening, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much. By way of introduction, we have heard tonight a few thoughts from my bio, but I oftentimes, when I go to listen to people, kind of think to myself, why should I take any of my valuable time and listen to this person? And so I want to just share with you a couple of things, and maybe that will help open the door for me to be able to speak and share some thoughts with you tonight. I would never this evening assume to know or totally understand how everyone feels here tonight. I do happen this evening to have on the tree behind us a bulb representing my uncle, who a few years ago in his journey in life chose to take his own life. And so our own family has been touched by the loss of a loved one. And particularly at this time of year, I recognize that every person and every human being has different feelings and emotions as they come to the table. But to go a little bit deeper, it was mentioned this evening that I have worked in various capacities, one of those being deputy coroner in another state. Then for 5 years when I first moved to Utah, I was able to serve as the hospice chaplain for IHC. And then most recently, for the past 9 years, I've been serving as the chaplain for the Provo Police Department. One of the things that was mentioned that I teach on, but I also do, is death notifications. And I will never forget my first death notification. I was a young man just beginning my career, and I remember it was in the middle of the night, it was late, and as we were driving down the road, myself and the coroner headed to someone's home, I began to think to myself, I am in the process of delivering a message to this family that will change their life forever. I have had on numerous occasions to sit down with families and explain to them why autopsies need to be done. I've had numerous occasions to participate in them. And so I come to the table tonight as someone who has lost someone in my family, but also who sees maybe a little bit different direction and understands some of the circumstances from maybe a different perspective. Most of the time, simply put, my job is to deliver a very offensive message in what I hope to be the least offensive manner, but at the same time not to lose the message that needs to be delivered. Tonight my task is a little bit different, and tonight I look forward to my task because my task tonight is to present a message of hope, of comfort, and personal insight to an awesome group of people. And so if you'll indulge me a little bit this evening, I'd like to share some scripture. I'd like to share some personal insights. And I would also say to you this evening that some of the thoughts that I may share, how you choose to apply them to your life is your choice. I did not come here tonight as the pastor of a church, but I came here tonight as a fellow journeyman who would like to share some insights and some things that have impacted my life, and I believe maybe hopefully would be of some use to you this evening. All of us as human beings need relationships. In fact, if we're honest tonight, our greatest joys and our greatest pain comes in the context of relationship. Whether it be a relationship with our fellow man or the Creator, God. Now, worldwide, and I've had some opportunity to travel around the world, I find that it really doesn't matter where I go, that there are some similarities between all of us as human beings. And that similarity is that we all value family and friends. And for the most part, I think our world values a God, a Creator. Now, I recognize today that religions around the world argue about a lot of those details, and my intention tonight is not in any way to take us down some of those argumentative paths. But I stopped tonight to just have us all consider this, that there is a Creator, and that God does have some value in our lives. The psalmist David writes in Psalm 61, "Hear my cry, O God, and listen to my prayer. From the ends of the earth I will call to you. I call as my heart grows faint. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I, for you are my refuge, a strong tower against the foe. And I long to dwell in your tent forever and take refuge in the shelter of your wings." The psalmist David understood overwhelming emotion, and he knew that in those moments he could turn to God. The question for all of us tonight is, where do we turn when our life becomes overwhelming? Now, what causes this sense of grief tonight for some is this sense of loss. And I don't believe that anyone can truly understand where someone is in that journey. Each one of us individually experience different thoughts and different pains and different levels of emotion. Sometimes it's full of questions, sometimes it's full of fear, sometimes it's full of doubt, sometimes it's full of anger. But one of the things that I believe we can be assured is that in those moments of overwhelming emotion and difficulty, when it's hard to really know how to express how we really feel, I believe that God's Spirit and I believe that God's people are there to give us strength and support in those difficult moments. And my advice to individuals is that when you find yourself in an overwhelming place, don't hesitate to lean on both God and on one another. Now, my advice for all of us is that we be honest with others and ourselves about where we are, what's happened, what we're struggling with, and in the midst of that we learn to move towards God, with or without our religion. And I recognize that sometimes religion plays a major role, and sometimes for others it's not that major role, but in the end it's that movement towards God that gives us strength. As we move towards God, one of the things that I always encourage and I see so often in my role is that it is tempting sometimes for people to become speculative and to become legalistic and to become judgmental and to say a lot of things that can be hurtful. And my advice to all of us is that while some around us may choose to do that, that we don't move in that direction. But rather, instead, that we try to focus our attention on doing what we've always done as friends and family. That we keep on loving our family member in death as we did in life. That we keep on loving each other, and that we talk to each other. That we reminisce together, that we reflect together, that we keep communication open within our families, that we guard our privacy, but we don't insulate ourselves to the point that we deny each other access, that we begin by being thankful for the gift of our loved one's life, that we be thankful for the relationship that we had with them, no matter how short of time it may be. I have never in all of my years, and as difficult as it's been to be with families at difficult moments, have I ever had a family member ever say to me, this person, no matter how young, is gone, and I wished I would have never, ever been in relationship with them. At our core, we're thankful for every single moment that we have. We need to be thankful for what they taught us about the complexities of relationships, and for the opportunities that we've had to pour our lives into their life, no matter how short of a time. For the time that we had together and the opportunity that we had to share God's love with them. Now that may seem like a kind of random thought that we would share God's love, but I believe that the season we are in, it's important for us to recognize that God's love is really the accurate perception and adequate provision for another person's needs. Tonight we light the memorial Christmas tree. And no matter what your personal belief system is, the original story of Christmas is a wonderful love story. It begins, and it's a verse that probably we've seen a lot, but sometimes I think we miss the whole point of it, found in John 3:16, and I'm going to read it in a version called The Message. It said, this is how much God loved the world, that he gave his son, his one and only son. And this is why, so that no one need be destroyed by believing in him. Anyone can have a whole and everlasting life. God didn't go to all the trouble of sending his son merely to point an accusing finger telling the world how bad it was, but he came to help, to put the world right, and anyone who trusts in him is acquitted. Whether or not we publicly declare it or not, we are showing at least a similar type of love when we reach out to our neighbors and to our friends, and we try to understand what they need, and we do our best to meet that need. That, I believe, is the true heart and spirit of Christmas. God so accurately perceived your need and my need that this text says he provided for it. The Apostle Paul said to the Philippian church some things that maybe we read over and maybe you're familiar with, maybe you're not. But oftentimes it's those stages in life where things begin to jump out at us. And here was his words to us, I believe. He said, let your gentleness be evident to all. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. Another version puts it this way, don't worry about everything or anything, but pray about everything. With thankful hearts, offer your prayers and requests to God. Then because you belong to Christ Jesus, God will bless you with a peace that no one can completely understand. And this peace will control the way that you feel. And then he says, finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Whatever you have learned or received or heard from me or seen in me, put into practice, and the God of peace will be with you. I remind all of us tonight that God is with us, and so are his people. And don't underestimate where you will find God's people. In closing tonight, I want to share just a couple of thoughts about grief. my experience, my observations. If they're applicable, I would ask you to use them, and may they be a strength to you. If they're not, then just consider it an old chaplain up here rattling on for a moment or two. I want to encourage all of us tonight, and those who have maybe been carrying this load of loss for some time will recognize what I'm about to ready to say more than others. But the idea of grief is a process. It's a journey. It's not an event. And we mourn not because the memories we have of that person will ever be taken away, but at some point we come in clear realization that we mourn because we cannot make new memories. I have oftentimes likened grief to waves. As a child, I grew up overseas in Japan and loved to play in the ocean. One of the things that I learned about the ocean very quickly is that waves are a lot of fun, but there's also some things you have to understand about them. One of the things you have to know about waves is that they come in different intervals, they come in different sizes, and some of them can be really large and some of them can be rather small. But if you're going to play on the beach in any size of wave, a couple of things you need to know. Don't ever turn your back on them and try to ignore them, because as sure as you do, one will come along and plant you right in your face. And anybody who's ever stood on a beach and tried to stop a wave knows that that's about as useless as anything as well. But what we see, and we can see this on any major beach in the world today if there are surfers, are people who swim out past the breaking point, and they'll literally sit there for a long period of time floating through the waves. Now, if you've ever wondered why surfers sit so far out, is because they're out there judging the waves and they're looking for the big one because they want to catch a big one. But hanging onto their surfboard, they're able to surf or able to sit there for long, extended periods of time. I believe that grief is much like my experience at the beach. When we lose someone, the waves of grief come crashing in. And if you've ever experienced it, you know that they don't always come at the same intervals. They come in different sizes. They come sometimes at the most inopportune times. And if you've ever tried to stop them, you know that it's an impossibility. And if you've ever tried to ignore them, you know that as sure as you're looking somewhere else and trying to, they drop you on your face and you suffer the consequences. But if we recognize we're in a journey, this is a relational tie, and we swim out past the breaking point, we are able to sit there, and when we feel them coming, sometimes all we can do is just hang on and float through it. And what we find is that the wave will come and then the wave will pass. My advice to all of us is when we feel those waves coming, that we hang on to what's around us. We hang on to one another. We hang on to God. It's interesting because surfers are people who have studied the waves, and over a period of time they've gotten to the point where they can literally surf. They get up on their board and they do all these incredible things. There's videos out about them. But the interesting thing is that even though those waves are now something that are propelling them and giving them a lot of joy and enthusiasm, they still are just as dangerous as they ever were. And if surfers aren't careful, they can get hurt. I believe that part of the journey of grief is that you and I can find the strength, the momentum behind this pain that I have seen so many times, time and again, people who have been propelled forward to do some awesome things. I spent some time this afternoon in a meeting with survivors of suicide and listening to these families, knowing they've been through some incredibly difficult things. And yet there is a passion behind them and something that's driving them to reach out and help others and be positive. Does that mean that the grief still can't hurt? No, but it means that they've been able to find a way to take it and turn it into something that's positive. I believe that the SIDS Alliance, I believe that the Canary Garden, I believe that the Hope Task Force, all of these organizations are, yes, they are here to provide information, but they also are here to give us an opportunity to bring comfort and strength to one another, to be that thing to hang on to from time to time. But they also give people who have survived a place to learn how to surf. In closing this evening, I would just like to remind you that while we may lose loved ones, we still do not lose our ability and our right to choose. In the days and weeks and months ahead, it is up to each individual to choose the legacy and memories that they will embrace of their loved one. It is my prayer that some of the difficult moments will fade, and what will remain will be those cherished, joy-filled memories of a time spent with loved ones.
Thank you, Reverend Jackson, for those beautiful words. Thank you for making time to be with us tonight. We'll next be pleased to have a special musical number by Brennan Green. After the presentation of the musical number, we'll be pleased to invite Julie Bolton and Tanya Workman to the microphone, two people who deserve our praise and our appreciation for what they have done for many years to help us to be able to appropriately remember and to recognize those that we love and who have gone on. Brennan Green, and then the reading of the names by Julie Bolton and Tanya Workman.
Wash away the thoughts inside. Keep my mind away from you. No more love and no more pride. Thoughts are all I have to remember when it rained. I felt the ground and looked up high and called your name. Remember when it rained. In the water I remain.
Very nice.
The stars are brightly shining. It is the night of our dear Savior's birth. Long lay the world in sin and error pining, till He appeared and the soul felt His word. Sweet hymns of praise His holy name, for yonder breaks a new and glorious morn. Hold on your knees, or heed the angel's voice. O night divine, O night when Christ was born. O night, O holy night, O night divine, Christ is the Lord. His power and glory ever proclaim. His power and evermore proclaim.
I would just like to say a few words before we start. This is our first year that we have merged with Canary Garden. It's a center for grieving children and families. So if you have the opportunity, some of the new tree behind me have been made, the artwork and letters for some of the children that come to our program have done artwork about memories of the people that have died in their family, usually a parent or a brother and sister. So that's where those ornaments. We're going to go ahead and start reading the names.
One thing before we do start, I want to just say that this is a special night for all of us, especially with the Utah County SIDS Alliance. For us, this is more than just a memorial lighting. This is something that we can do for those babies that we no longer are able to do too much for. We can remember them, and that's what this night is for, is remembering those that we've loved and lost. Gotta go with 5.
Yeah. Cheston W. Lowe, Atreya Mark Goodman, Jaden Quiring, Jessica Ruth Bowen, Morgan Tehan.
Hal Mark Magleby, Keith J. Clayton Jr., Kevin Reed Bennett, Bill Peterson, Kennedy Gurney.
Calvin Wesley Irvine, Teresa Lynn Jones, Asia Elizabeth Badger, Joseph Crocker, Monty Howard Bolton,
Jamie Pearl Bown, Caleb Bushnell, Tyler Johnson, Brian Gentry Bolton, Kelsey Watkins.
Jackson Swenson, Jadri Corinne Jackson, Davis Balsey, Amber Lee Workman, Tariki Havitt, Sarah Elizabeth Bolton, Travin Jensen.
Marcella Lynn Durow, Stephanie Tebow, Keenan McFarland, Levi Eric Tishner, Shay Herrick.
Jonathan Joseph Clayton, Spencer Cade Brimhall, Louisa Grace Hall, Jordan Jefferson Burton, Avery Lene Sparks.
Juan Cardenas, Denise Brenchley, Alex Goddard, Emmett Dave Durow, Chase Olson.
Kinley Norton, Bo Jensen, Colton Mossbarger, Hunter Danner, Ryan Tayson, Newell Tayson.
Dick Danner, Haley Olson, Emma Rain Marble, Tanya Brenchley, Tiffany Marie Jackson.
Skylar Jared Johnson, Adrian Guadalupe Lopez Arriaga, Richmond Normer, Leigh Twitchell, Addison Jane Evans.
Liliana Ramos, Rebecca Perry, Thomas Page, Kamahali Johnson, Dylan Jolly.
Lucy Grace Jones, Misty Alley, Nicole Baker, Rob Wise, Lindsay Busker, and Aidan Bagat.
Emily Gubler, Dorothy Moreno, Marion
Marion Londegger,
George P. Longdegger, Tana Woollett.
Zachary Woollett, Dr. Matthew Roush, Clint Campbell, Barry Campbell, Shane Ivy,
Ward Sherwood, Rachel Stubbs McTeer, Blaine Pugmire, Brandon Wilson,
Carol Jean Jensen, Bruce Cleveland, Leon Faye Burnett, Michael Robert Bergen, David Ross Hepler,
Tyler Polson, Brigham Baumgartner, Mel Couches, Rusty Iyer,
Wade Verde, Alan Jewell, Will Burnett, Corey Boyack, Brian Bradshaw.
Julie Neff, Karina Jones, Richard Raphael Huntsman, Carrie Ryan, Steve Wilkinson, Charlie Wilkinson,
Jesse Denise Hartman, Glenn Frank Gordon, and Jewel Bayless Jones. Scott Nathan Pedersen, Catherine Gordon, Elvin A. Ross, Justin McGowan, Garrett Lee Smith.
Glenn Scheibe, Jay Jackson, Anthony James Valerio, Renee Beer Wheaton,
Alva Hansen, Linda Michelle Hansen, Alexis Briley Hansen, Martha Wright, Lucille Mullins, and Jessica Ann Franson.
This may seem like a lot of names, but over 5 years we just keep adding. And it's not to say we should ever take any of these names off, because we're never going to forget any of them.
Thank you, Julie and Tanya. Now I've been asked to do the actual lighting of the trees, and it's appropriate that we would light up these trees and have a light for each of these people, for each of the names that have been read. For every life is precious, and every one deserves to be remembered. So if you now join me as we light the trees, and you can remain seated. believe this is our first year that we've had 2 trees. And Provo City is honored to have these beautiful trees and the names that hang thereon in memory of very, very special people. Every life deserves to be remembered. This year, my family is remembering a special one. And I hope you won't mind that we just maybe take a moment and celebrate the life of a young lady. I go back approximately 10 years ago when a 6.5-year-old came home from school, a healthy young lady, and who immediately went out into the backyard to play at my sister's home in Rexburg, Idaho. And after just a half hour or so, she came in and she said, "Mama, I'm tired." And this is a young lady that had never been tired before. And her mother suggested that she go rest. She did for a while, and then she went back out to play. And it wasn't too long before the kids came in to say that little Karina was in trouble, something was wrong, and they rushed her to the hospital. And long story made short, they found that her small intestine had kinked, and had been kinked for some time, and as a result had become, I guess, gangrenous, and had effectively died. She was rushed to Children's Hospital, and the expectation was that they could go in and do surgery and remove the damage to or the dead portion of her small intestine and reattach that portion that was still good. But as they began the surgery, it was quickly evident that this little 6.5-year-old had no portion of her small intestine that could be reattached and used. And so the doctor, not knowing what else to do, simply took what he had removed, a piece of it anyway, and I guess cleaned it in a hydrogen peroxide solution and sewed it back in. Through a number of months that turned into years, this young lady would receive 3 transplants in a hospital in Omaha, Nebraska. At the conclusion of the first, she was being attended to, and in a procedure by a hospital staffer, she was caused to aspirate into her lungs. And so all of the effort being made to help her not reject her transplant had to be abandoned to try to keep her alive, and she was put into a chemical coma so she wouldn't fight the respirator trying to help her to breathe. Her mother of 8 children, was required to be away for years at the hospital in Omaha while a father tried to go about running the affairs of a family, tried to be at work and to do those things that are hard enough to do if you had an army of people doing them, but he was left to do them alone. Some 6 years ago, there came a point where they thought little Karina wouldn't make it. She'd had multiple transplants. And her grandmother, who lived in an adjacent state, received a call from her. And she says, "Mommy, Grandmommy, when they come to clean my bedding, I have to just hold on to this old scratchy blanket. It's so uncomfortable. It's so unpleasant." And grandmother went to work and quickly prepared a blanket, a warm blanket, a comfortable blanket, and got it to Karina in Omaha, Nebraska. It wasn't too long later that Karina called grandmother and said, "You know, sometimes they take my nice blanket to clean it, and I have to go with an old scratchy blanket again." And so grandmother went to work and made another blanket. And then it was decided that they would make hundreds of blankets. And that community where her grandmother lived rose to the occasion. And there was a project featured on local television called Karina's Blankets. And they were intended so that no child in any hospital in the Omaha area would ever have to have a scratchy blanket again. Well, time passed, and there was a moment where they thought she was going to pass, and the father made arrangements for the children in Rexburg, Idaho, flew to Omaha, Nebraska, was there for many, many days. But this little gal, she fought, and she did not succumb to what appeared to be her last hours. And as the father traveled back through Salt Lake late one night, tired, feeling like he just almost didn't know if he could bear what it was his to bear, and facing the reality of going home to housework and cooking and homework and job and everything that life has to offer a husband who would be in that circumstance, he sat on an airplane at the Salt Lake International Airport waiting for it to depart to Idaho Falls. There were only 2 other passengers that night. A very prominent Salt Lake clergyman by the name of Gordon B. Hinckley and his assistant. And they showed tremendous interest in this family and in this father. And they agreed that night that they would pray for them. And he was renewed, he said, as he got off that plane. And he was impressed by the power of someone who cares and the words of encouragement that come from those who want to help. Well, time is short, and so I won't get into the details of the story. This young lady literally was a miracle. She was intending to be a part in a play. She was not the lead role, but she would have been in January of 2007 in a play at the Rexburg High School as a junior there. But she came home 3 weeks ago from school, and again she told her mother she didn't feel well, and she went to rest. And when her father came home from work, he went in to check on her, and she wasn't breathing strongly. And so they decided to put her in the car quickly and to move as quickly as they could from Rexburg, Idaho to Idaho Falls. As they made that trip, she passed. And the mother had the father set her out onto the cold, dark freeway as she tried to administer CPR, tried to revive her. But it was not to be. This wonderful girl who had fought a battle, a tough battle, in hospitals for years upon end, who had tried to pick up in between and go to school and to catch up on her schoolwork and to be a friend of all, was laid to rest. And I know tonight she's in a better place. We were touched to go to a funeral and to hear that the day prior to the funeral, that all the kids in the school where she attends had been invited during their release time class to make quilts, to make Karina quilts in Rexburg, Idaho. That the kids who would go to the hospital in Rexburg, Idaho would never have to have a scratchy quilt. And that day at the funeral, those quilts had been brought and had been stacked at the front of the chapel where this funeral was held, and there were hundreds. And then they dismissed the high school for that afternoon, and the kids came to the funeral. And it was impressive to see the power of one life. Every life is precious. Every life deserves to be remembered. And so, in this special season, may each of us remember. May each of us take time to reflect and to think upon those aspects of those we love who have gone on, that made them unique, those things that about them were special to us. For if we do, we will be better. Every life is precious. Tonight, we thank you for coming, because we know you have come because you know that to be so. And we hope that you would consider coming back throughout this holiday season and to use this space, if it suits you, to remember. May the joy and the peace of this special season be with each of us. May each of us appreciate the greatness and find a sense of peace as we remember every life is precious. Ladies and gentlemen, that now concludes our special ceremony. We would invite you to come forward as you would choose. There are refreshments as well. This time and space is now yours. Thank you.
Wash away the thoughts inside. Keep my mind away from you. more love and no more pride. Thoughts are all I have to do. Remember when it rained, I felt the ground and looked up high and called your name. Remember when it rained, in the water I remained. Tears of hope come down my skin. Tears for you that hurt me. They magnify the one within. At the outside remember when it rained, felt the ground and looked up high and called your name. Remember when it rained, in the darkness I remained, running down, running down, running down, running down. Running down, running down, running wash away the thoughts inside. Keep my mind away from you. No more love and no more pride. Thoughts are all I have to do. magnify the one within. The outside remember when it rained. Felt the ground and looked up high and called your name. Remember when it rained. In the darkness I remained, running down, running down.
Very nice.